Hello and welcome to Michael Pepper Tech. We are live and I have some things on my mind, in particular, some things having to do with um, my experience with Spectrum Internet and how these companies kind of um, lock us into the technology. How some of the things that I've discovered with dealing with them is quite shady. How I feel like this is a practice that needs to change. How it's just very concerning to me to the way that these companies do these things. There we go. Let's get share this out, people. Um, we're gonna go kind of in depth here, and we're going to really talk about what's been going on. You know, one of the things with moving is finding a particular carrier, right? And finding particular internet provider. And so I move into this building and I'd done my research ahead of time. And it turns out that Spectrum is the only option. Very limited choice, very, limited options as far as ISPs around here. And so I'm thinking instead of having to wait around, instead of having to deal with driving to their store, which is a 45-minute drive one way to the closest one, instead of having to deal with that and then go to, while I'm moving and dealing with all the stresses of that, I would just order a modem on Amazon. So I picked up this RSS3 S33 and figured, I'll get here and I'll we'll unpack and then I'll take the time to contact them and get that hooked up. Well, the first person was like, "Oh, you're gonna have to come in here because we can't find your address. You're gonna have to go in the store." First they put in the wrong address, so I had to go into the store in order for them to change it to the right address so they could get me service here. They almost disconnected somebody at the other address because they thought that that there was still a connection here. So I went into the store and they're like, "Oh yeah, we have this one that you can use for free." I'm like, "Well, I bought one." He's like, "Well, you might as well take it. Just hook this up, see if it works. That way, if you go to connect yours and there's an issue, you'll know it's your on your end." So I was like, "Okay, cool." So that was 11 days ago or so. We moved in on the 18th. I think that was the 19th. And so I went there and did that, came home, got it hooked up. It was working fine, great for about a week, and then it started having issues. And I'm like, well, I'll go connect the one that I have up and see if that stops the issues, because there was issues with um, connection maintaining, and I kept having to unplug the modem and plug it back in. And so after a little bit, I got that working, and that was working for about the last few days. And then last night it started acting up. And so I scheduled an appointment. I kind of was tinkering with it last night, and I was like, you know what, I'll try again in the morning. And so I contacted them this morning. 3 hours later, they had somebody out here, and he came, and he turned out that the line coming in was too hot. It had too strong of a signal coming in, and so he ended up doing is he was just gonna put a splitter on it, which has a -7 decibel drop. So he was just gonna put that on it, hope it worked. Well, the problem with that was, yeah, it brought the top end down, but the basically the signal going out then was dropped too low. So instead, there is a junction in the living room right next to me here, which is where I wanted it originally, but there was no connection there. So he ran a whole new line, and then he took the filter off what was there before. And then he put the splitter on it, and now it's within range at the upper end and the lower end, and going out, coming in, all of that's within range. It was like cool. I connect up the modem that I bought. The light turns orange for a little bit, auburn color, and then it goes from that to green and then to blue, which means I have internet, and I plug it into my computer and I go online and it tests fine. Then he leaves, and then it starts having issues. Oh, and mind you, in all this, I had gone on my account through, fortunately, having decent signal 5G on my phone, and had gone into my account and noticed that it had the old style listed, and it didn't have the MAC address for it. I could not find the MAC address for it. And conveniently, their site was down last night, and they were doing maintenance on it for like the fourth time in the last 11 days. And so I had to wait till this morning, and until after he was here already, because they were doing maintenance until 10 o'clock, and he showed up at 10:02. So he did his thing, and then he left. And then I noticed that on their site, it still had the old one listed, and then it had the new one, but it had it under the wrong style. And also that it was saying that there was an error and there was issues. So I decided, you know what? I'll reactivate the old one, the one that's theirs. So I did that and got that connected up, and it was working fine. I plug it into my computer, I get that connected up, and I ended up actually in the end having to reset my routers, and that kind of helped. And so, hi Barry, just talking about Spectrum and ISP and network and fun stuff. And so everything's working fine now. But what I don't get is, yes, I am using Melon, is um why mine was working for that whole time, and then he came out and there were signal issues, which I get. But then when I connected mine, their site's like, nope, nope, nope. But the minute I connect theirs up, theirs connects really fast, instantly goes in and is working. And it seems to be, to me, from my testing, from everything I've looked at, that um I'm actually at 720p. Funny enough. So that's kind of strange. I'm just using my Sony camera in through like I normally do. If there's a delay, it might be Melon. I think Melon has issues right now. I'm gonna try StreamYard at some point and see if that's a little bit better. But so the issue was that it seems to be that they want you to use their equipment, which I get good speeds. Like I'm getting better speeds than what I'm paying for. Like I'm getting 450, 460 down and 20 to 25 up, and I am only paying for 400 down, 20 up. So I'm getting, a decent amount better. That's like 10, 12% better speeds. The real problem is, yeah, it must be Melon. Um, Strange, because like to me it looks fine, so I don't know what's going on. I'm assuming it's the Melon app. Um, so the issue is, hi John. So the issue is I am feeling like basically they want you to use their modem, which I don't have a problem with. But what I do have a problem with is that if I have an issue, I can't figure out how to look into the logs. I did ipconfig and grab the IP address of their modem, but when I type it in and it doesn't bring me to anything, literally, like to be able to sign in and check that out and see what's going on. So if I have issues, I can't even look and be like, oh, I just need to reset it, or oh, I can call them and tell them what's going on. So they have to send somebody out. So I feel like it's a bit of a scam. It's like oh yeah, we'll just send somebody out and then we can determine whether or not we're going to charge you or not, sort of thing. And so that's a little sneaky to me. And I don't get why, I called, they set mine up just fine and it was working for days. And now when I get the line fixed and all that and it's working on theirs, mine decides it's not going to work right. And I contact them and they're like, "Oh yeah, we don't even see it as like customer provided at our end, and I can't do anything about it." So I have somebody coming tomorrow and I am going to make that person see if they can get mine working again, because it should be working fine. So this is what concerns me too. Not only that, but Spectrum is the only ISP that I can get here. Other than there is a company that's called like Fire Wi-Fi, and they use I th- like I think Verizon or maybe T-Mobile. I don't know. It's $50 a month for unlimited everything, and it's basically like the Verizon home internet and T-Mobile home internet, and they actually will provide here. But the thing with that is I don't really get decent speeds as far as upload consistently enough. Well, I do, but like not really with any of those to make it usable for live streaming. So, um I think that's my concern, and that they had this monopoly, this lock-in that basically nobody else can provide here, even though in the main city, literally like there's literally out on the corner an AT&T fiber running up there. Um, oh, good question. I wondered if anybody would notice this. So this is actually cleverly my way of if somebody is watching this and like let's say it comes up on their TV, is if you scan that with your phone, it brings you to my homepage of my YouTube channel. I want to do one using. I have an app that I use that actually has all my social media stuff. But I don't want. I feel like if it brings them to a site, that's going to be kind of a concerning thing. So that's what that is. Hey Ike, how's it going? Um, so that's been kind of what's been going on and trying to figure out and the loveliness of Spectrum. And so now I got their equipment hooked up. So if it starts having issues after a couple hours or so, then I can blame it on their equipment. And you know what? If theirs keeps working just fine, I can return that modem because I was like 200 bucks. And now if there's an issue, they have to send somebody out. They have to, provide me new modem, and it's free. And so far, I don't see I'm being charged for it. And um, theirs has 2.5 gig out. It's DOCSIS 3.1, but I don't know if that's a 32 by 8 or not. And it's like a really random um company because it's like it's a EU2251. And so if anybody knows who actually makes that, I'm assuming I think it's Motorola. Like Motorola and Netgear and all of them are pretty much owned by the same kind of company overall, and they buy this and they own, they manufacture for these companies, and so far it's been good, but just the not having the ability to go in and mess with it is kind of concerning. It's like if Apple decided that you weren't allowed to even look in your settings. Like they were just going to be like, you know what, you have apps, but you're not allowed to look in the settings. And as far as connecting to Wi-Fi, um, you're going to have to do like the where you press a button in WPS and it, there's just a button on our phone and it connects. And if you have any issues, forget about it. Like that's what I feel like, and it's nerve-wracking. It's disturbingly concerning. You know what? Let me check something with my camera real quick. See if that's less choppy. I turned down the bit rate on it. It looks to seem like it's a little bit better. I don't know. Nope, that's definitely delayed. Um, Let me move that back. Sure, I can drop it to see what happens if I move it to 480p. Is that any better? No, maybe. Um, so anyways, that's been what's been going on with that, and it making me think about some things about how this whole like Apple subscription thing is kind of a similar way of locking you in, and depending on how they do it. Now, if it's like basically the idea of however much you pay per month after a year, you've paid half the phone off, and then at the end of that, you can just pay the other half off and own it, or you can just turn it in and go to the next device. Um, so I'm just concerned with how I see a little delay. Um, I'm gonna have to find my adapter and use a dummy battery and go that method, but or connect it up to my PC next time and see if it's my Mac, Sony and M1 maybe. It should be fine because I mean I was using I was quite literally streaming with like a 2014 MacBook Air when I first started my channel, so I don't know. Um, So these ISPs, having this monopolized, locked in market is really just concerning to me. And the idea that like you don't have choice, the idea that you don't have the option to just decide, um, to even look in to see what your issues are. It's like if there's an issue, you're just gonna have to wait for somebody to come out, and if that's, the same day or the next day or days later, who knows? Or you're gonna have to drive to a store and see if they can fix it and tell you at their end, or go pick up new hardware. And like that idea is just concerning because like at least with Apple, like if I break my device, there's an Apple store. They're almost, they're I know when their hours are. I know when they're open. I know that I can go see somebody. But like with the whole Spectrum Tech thing, I don't know when somebody's going to be able to get there. If they're super busy, if there's an outage, that's concerning. There's no ability for me to like go into the logs and look up. Like I was having T3 and T4 errors, IPv4 like reset issues and things like that. It was just really weird. So I feel like, we're gonna do something interesting, and this is gonna like really, really mess with like I'm not going to be as you know, nice and crispy here necessarily, but it will be 1080p. And this is my MacBook's camera, so there's not as much delay, or my iMac's camera. So let's see here. This could be interesting. We could just stream like this. It's softer. Let me check something here real quick. Let me go in and like crank up my brightness on my lights in my room here. Let me. So this is the IMAX camera. Look at that. Is that any better? Now that I brought up the rate in resolution, and I'm using the IMAX camera, and this is interesting. Um, Obviously the background's not blurred out, so you see that behind me, but you know what? This works. So there's the idea of like, I don't necessarily need all of the entire option of, choice when it comes to things, but just the fact that, yeah, this is better. Just the fact that, um, test 1 2 1 2. There we go. Just the fact that they kind of lock you in and don't even give you the choice to use your own if you want to, which, provide more information for me and things like that. I don't like that. I don't like not having the options. I don't like not having the choice. I don't like not having the freedom to kind of see what's going on if there is an issue and do some troubleshooting on my own, because it's not like I have the $3,000 equipment that they're asking for, but at the same time, like, shouldn't I be able to check and look into some of those things? And shouldn't I be able to look at, some of this stuff? And let's see here. Am I delayed on my end? Yeah, there's a delay here, but it doesn't look as choppy to me. So, um, I feel like that's a huge concern to me as far as ISPs, as far as companies, as far as just all that stuff going on with these companies. And it's just really concerning because here you have this huge internet service provider that's allowed to just kind of get away with and do whatever they want. and they're allowed to stick me with their stuff. And so anytime they could decide, you know what, um, we're gonna push an update that says if you're paying for 400 up or 400 down and 20 up, that you will never get faster than that. And so the fact that, yeah, I'm not the admin, so basically I don't get to check that, but like when I have my own, I can. And that's just really concerning to me that like I could set that up on my own. I have it set up. I went in and changed the password on mine. I might try if theirs continues to work just fine, and after the person comes and checks tomorrow, um, if they can figure out what the deal is when I hook mine up. But I might try that, and I might also see that because theirs was having issues. Like I was having issues connecting to the internet, and I think what was happening was also my router might have been that I needed to reset that and kind of clear some things out because we moved from my parents to here, and I kept it set up the same so that I wouldn't have to go in and sign into the network again on all of my devices and on my wife's devices and my son's tablet and stuff like that. So I think that what I'm gonna do is see if in the morning maybe I'll connect up mine and see if it keeps functioning, and see if, because I know sometimes your router can overlog your modem and cause your modem to just kind of shut down and keep refreshing, because the signal obviously is that's the router's grabbing the signal and sending it out and bringing it in from the modem. So I know that can cause issues. um what is up, Savage? Logitech G915 TKL. Oh, fancy. I didn't realize that that was the numbers for that particular keyboard, because I just usually like I have my MX Master 3 mouse and MX Keys keyboard. And so I don't know, it's just concerning to see like these companies are allowed to get away with these things because they have so much money, and essentially they're paying apartment complexes and paying like cities to be able to say, hey, we're going to be the only provider there, and don't let anybody else through, don't let anybody else in, don't um allow for them to even offer this. And the other thing that does is that allows a company basically to do what is going on with Spectrum. I'm fortunate because, like, right now, obviously, being a new customer, they knock $25 a month off your bill to start with. And then I qualify for the $30 a month off through the federal program having to do with the whole ACP, Affordable Coverage Program. Excuse me. That's what happens when I'm multitasking. So basically I'm paying $40 a month for, like I said, 400 down, 20 up. But the normal price on that's $95 a month. It's not very good considering most places like $95, $100 a month, you can get gigabit. Like wow, you can get like gigabit down and 50, or like some places it's 100 up. There are some cities I know you can get parallel, like 500 by 500 or gigabit by gigabit for not much more than that in some places. And the fact that these ISPs, I get it because like in a larger city, the fact that the infrastructure costs are lower, but there's such a huge company that I feel like those costs shouldn't be just for that city base. If they have 30 million customers and they have to put something in a smaller city to provide to, let's say, 20,000 people, or 5,000 people. They should just do that. And I don't get why these companies don't do that. I don't get why they're allowed to pay for that. And I know that there's a bill being passed and it should sign. Um, I blame Congress for cracking down on this. Cable TV ads are still too loud. We still get robocalls, and ISPs are still acting monopolistic after all these years. Yeah, so yeah, Congress for not cracking down. So the problem is this bill is being passed. It needs to go through the House, I believe, yet, and then the president has to sign it, and then basically that's saying that they're no longer allowed to do the whole like secretive, oh, we'll pay you kind of to allow us to be the only provider. Channel numbers. You know what's funny about that? I use YouTube TV, and sometimes I wish there were channel numbers rather than having to remember. Um, like sometimes I wish that there was another way to quickly get to things rather than having to go into the menu and scroll through and find it, or like try to type on a remote and search for it. I just find it really annoying. I'm gonna have to see if I can use like the voice search in Roku to go to a particular channel, or like my Apple TV. I feel like that's something that needs to be better integrated. I know that Xfinity with like their X1 and all that stuff, that you have like the voice search and all that. So I feel like that just as a customer, we have this outcry for these things that are such like a niched aspect. Like I've noticed this as tech creators have such outcry for things that they want that are such niched aspects. Like for example, I have an iPad mini, and there's people that like want this thing to have way more power, but they don't think about really the general market that it's focused on. And the same thing with like the iPad Pro. It does pro things. There are pro apps. Apple just doesn't make them because they don't have to make everything. There are third parties that do that. And so I feel like that these things though are things that affect everyone, because there's people that are paying way too much and not getting, like, in the same aspect of like people are saying, well, I should get more for that $1,000 than I do for like $500, and I'm not. I might get a slightly faster processor, but maybe not even then. And so, and maybe slightly better camera or something. But to me, like, internet is a necessity, because in order for people to learn, like, there's a huge thing in high poverty areas tend to have hard, limited access to internet to begin with. And higher poverty, lower education, like this affects everything, because it affects their ability to understand who's going into government, who get information and do research on maybe who to vote for. And it limits the voice of the people unless you have money, unless you live in a really wealthy area. But then at the same time, like, those people probably are staying on campus where they have libraries of books and tons of that at their fingers. Like, the cheapest way, I feel like, to educate the people, to make people informed, and to provide knowledge and experience, and be able to really truly help our country progress through and change society, and people to like become less judgmental and more educated and learn about anything from disease to maybe you have like you're feeling off, just the idea of being able to go online and research that and be like, maybe I should go to the hospital tonight, or you know what, I'll just hold off because you know what, that hospital bill is going to be really expensive and I can't research it, so I'll just hold off. Like, these are like life things that I feel like people don't realize how important access to data through internet connection truly is, other than entertainment. We live in a society where we take things for granted, but there are huge segments of society that, statistically speaking, are being affected by decisions by big companies, by the actual minority of our country, as in like the percentage of the low percentage of people that are wealthy are the ones that are making decisions that will never affect them, and decisions for things that they've never understood, that they've never experienced, that most likely they've never wondered if they're going to be able to pay their rent. They've never wondered, like, is that mom upstairs okay? They've never wondered, and they've never needed, and they've never hoped for things because they just bought it or had it. Not that they don't, not that people haven't earned it, not that people don't deserve it, but like, how do you truly create a balance in society and equality when technology is limited in access, when every phone and every device, no matter the price point, has access to the internet? And even the cheapest devices today that can run on LTE's capabilities and capacities were never touched. And now we're going into 5G trying to get those things. The fact that somebody never got the full potential, there are people that never got the full potential of the access to that device, to the access to things more than entertainment, to things that are more important than to a lot of people than whether they can take a great photo or not. Because if they can just capture a moment, that's all that really matters. But I sit here and I think about how different, excuse me, about how different society is and life would be if everybody had a more fair treatment and access, and how I would be different if I truly understood, like, that there are other people out there that are weird, quirky, um like I am earlier in my life, and then we have children that are growing up without this, and we have some children that are growing up with too much of this. And so I feel like that is an important lesson that we can learn from technology. And I feel like we need to appreciate what we have in our technology instead of degrading what it doesn't give us, because maybe what we want out of that technology takes away from what others have, appreciate, gain, and levels beyond some of our comprehension as far as the aspect of how that benefits a majority of society instead of you want this. And so you criticize a company and you look at these companies and you're like, they're making tons of money. But we also, I feel like we don't really look into the aspects of, like, for example, do any of us consider the fact that Samsung makes tons and tons of money too, and Google and Microsoft? But like, what are they really doing to benefit society? What are they really doing to educate the children? Where, for example, if somebody needs access and somebody wants to understand their technology, they can walk into an Apple store and get classes for free on how to use that. It does not matter if you are a 4-year-old boy or an 80-year-old woman like my neighbor trying to understand how to use technology to better your life, to better your experience, to maybe go back to school, to learn a new task, to create with what's in your mind and to capture images and portray them better to people in photography, or grabbing a pen and drawing on it and those apps and those experiences. But how are you going to do that if we're limited to access and we don't try to ask for better in the most simplest thing that exists amongst all devices is the connection that helps us gain access to tons and tons of things that are on the internet, that are on YouTube, the largest search engine, that are on TikTok, which, believe it or not, you can learn a ton out there. I've learned a lot about cooking. I've learned a lot about mental health. I've learned a lot about people in general. I've gotten days where I go on there to laugh. This is important aspects of life that I feel like nobody is talking about and nobody really understands. And yes, I actually want to bring this up. Microsoft discounting certification exams for $10 for the underprivileged. Yeah, it makes me think of how Apple has like the coding for kids and coding for girls, and like how they're trying to expand the horizons. And it's so cool to see these companies doing these things on the day-to-day basis. But why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we like asking for these other companies to do that? Like, we're sitting back and we have a voice, and whether there's like 4 people watching me or 40,000 or there's 40 million, I think that one of the things I've come to realize when it comes to my channel is I just want people to experience technology and learn about it and be able to truly use it in a way that they may have not thought of before, and stop necessarily being so like, oh, this is what I don't like about it and this is what I do like about it, but more of like, this is how I can put it to use. For example, if you were to walk into a store and let's say you want to become a chef, are you truly going to look at a knife and be like, oh, that looks weird? Or like, are you going to pick out a knife based on like the quality of the materials and the style of knife, the weight of the handle, the sharpness of the blade, the guarantee behind it, potentially the name, and how long you know that's going to last you? is all important, but just keeping in mind what you're going to use it for. Because if you go to that particular store and you go to that particular place and you pick out something and it's a knife that's used for sculpting like fine rosettes out of onions and potatoes and doing like fine work and like cutting into cakes and doing some of this stuff, when you needed a large knife for chopping through thick, heavy root vegetables to make into soups and hearty meals. Because let's say you want to start to learn to cook and utilize the materials that are around you, and you're going to start your garden, and you're going to do this, and you're going to create a community aspect, and you're going to teach other people. You're going to want to buy a quality knife, but not pay too much, but not pay so little that you keep having to buy more. And let's say you're going to buy 20 of them, and you're going to pass these on to other people, and you want that knife to be able to do some fine work but also chop through heavy vegetables, and you're going to use this to bring the community together, and that community that comes together is going to learn to cook. But then that food that you prepare, you're going to turn around and you're going to deliver it to the people that can't leave their houses, and you're going to take it and you're going to talk to a church or a community room, or you're going to talk to an event, and you're going to get them to let you use that space, and you're going to provide the meals for the people in your community that are lonely. Maybe they can cook for themselves, but maybe they never get out. Or the people that can't ever afford to sit down at a table and have a nice meal. They work hours and hours a day. You have a single mother like the lady who lives above me who works all the time. You have people who are nurses or teachers and doctors and things like that. So what are you doing with your technology? What are you doing with that tool to sculpt a better self, to sculpt a better channel, to learn about it so that other people can use that technology to better themselves and to really understand what it's meant to be in the full capacity of it? And I think that is my goal. And I had this idea of what I wanted to talk about tonight, and then it just kind of all started flowing. And one of the coolest things is I discovered lately about myself is the idea that my brain can multitask, but at the same time, I have to be like hyper focused on something. And sometimes that's really overwhelming to other people, and it can be overwhelming to myself, and people don't understand. Like, I gotta explain things through, and people think I'm too talky, or it makes me sound super smart. But at the same time, it's actually that I'm just very distracted. But at the same time, like, my brain's just all over the place, and it's really cool to be able to get on here and talk to you all about this, and just kind of spit fire and spitball and talk about technology and life, but how it kind of binds together. Because say it all, I'll say it with me. I don't only talk tech, but I live it. And you know what else? I love it. I enjoy it. And it inspires me to think about the ideas and how technology can be used to maybe change the way that we live, but we can also mm, understand the way that we and other people live is not one and the same, and hopefully use that to ask for and push for better experiences with the technology that we have. And so with that being said, I will see you all over at Wired Wednesday. Thank you for Savage Scientists, Sharky, Tech for Your Needs. Miles was in here, Barry Johnson, everybody, Ike, Big John Tech Reviews, everybody who came through to watch the stream. I appreciate you all. I hope that you found this intriguing. I hope that you will all join me this coming weekend, I should be live again, most likely Sunday. And if not, I'll see you all, of course, back at the same time, the same place next Wednesday. And let's move on over and continue this preaching with the tech preacher himself on Easy Computer Solutions at Wired Wednesday with him and the wonderful panel where we laugh, maybe we cringe a little bit, we kind of butt heads with each other, we get motivated to keep going throughout our week. Peace out, everyone. I don't only talk tech, but I live it, I love it, I enjoy it. Good evening, everybody. And if you're new to the channel, of course, always hit the subscribe button. If you didn't hit the like button down there, smash that on the way out. Hashtag replay crew. Hashtag better life with tech. Peace out.